Wrestling is great, isn't it? It truly has a little something for everyone. No matter whether you want high-flying or inspiring cruiserweights, mysterious fiendish villains, white meets heroic baby faces, whatever Mantar was, or big screaming hosses who love to club 7 shades of you-know-what out of one another. For the uninitiated, hosses are a cross between Zangief from Street Fighter and Bluto from Popeye, swapping six-packs for barrel chests and crisp counter wrestling for hammering people as hard as possible in the face during mad brawls. A staple of 1970s Deep South wrestling, hosses became big money in Japan in the 1980s and 90s, with some of the first Westerners to hold Japan's biggest titles being big boy hosses, breaking boundaries as swiftly as they broke jaws. Even today, hosses are still on our screens, being big draws on the independent scene and in major leagues respectively. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 best hosses. Join us! Number 10, Walter. Standing at 6'4", Walter is the current WWE NXT UK champion, having turned previous champion Pete Dunne into paste at NXT TakeOver New York. The toast of European pro wrestling, the Austrian powerhouse made his name across England and Germany before dominating the American independent scene. Known for chopping opponents so hard they turn purple, to say that Walter is a very intimidating man is only putting it mildly. Seriously, if you've never seen his matches against PCO, then track them down and prepare to wince. While we expect him to have a long run with the WWE UK title in NXT UK, we just can't wait to see him on the main roster, liquidizing everything in his path with his massive slap-happy mitts. Just imagine Walter versus Shane McMahon. A man can only dream. Number 9, Bad Luck Farley. Whilst the underboss is hardly the biggest name to come out of the hallowed Bullet Club, Bad Luck Farley has been ever present in the group since its inception and arguably one of its most important members. A former IWGP Intercontinental Champion, Farley has had barn burners both as a solo competitor and in tag action, with wins against big names such as Kota Ibushi, Michael Elgin, and the team of Okada and Tanahashi amongst others. No mugs, as you can see. Not the most technically gifted wrestler of all time, Farley employs a series of clubs, shocks, and whatever his grenade thing is to bludgeon his opponents. Farley also has a frankly horrific finisher in the Bad Luck Fall, a razor's edge with added stank. Farley even committed murder when he ripped Daryl Takahashi's head off. Surely the biggest hoss flex of all time. Number 8, Mike Awesome. The master of the powerbomb, the extreme gladiator, the fat chick thriller, thanks WCW, was one of the standouts of the latter-day ECW after a long storied run in Japan's FMW. Despite having a mullet in the late 90s, Awesome was quite simply awesome. His wars with Masato Tanaka have gone down in history and are guaranteed to make you wince, all harsh powerbombs and stiff elbows. Then he went to WCW and, well, the less said about that the better. It's a little hard now to go back and watch Awesome's highlight reel in a post-chair shot to the head world, with Big Mickey showing little regard for his opponent's brain matter. Regardless, you always have to respect a man with a theme as incredible as Awesome's. Rising up from the land of the gator, he's a modern-day gladiator. 6'6", angry and mean, a living, breathing war machine. Number 7, Scott Norton. While you could have been fooled into thinking that Scott Norton was Buff Bagwell's dad back in the NWO, the reality is that Flash was one of the most underrated members of the Black and White, and quietly one of its most successful. A legend in the world of arm wrestling, even competing against Sly Stallone in the 80s classic Over the Top, Big Scott Norton started pro wrestling in 1990 and quickly became, yep, you guessed it, immensely popular in Japan. Norton ended up in WCW as part of New Japan's working relationship with the company, teaming up with Buff Bagwell as Vicious and Delicious as part of the original NWO. Interestingly, while a member of the NWO, Norton still wrestled in Japan, eventually becoming IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Yep, that big-bellied fella with the mullet getting slapped about by Sting every week was IWGP Champion. Certainly no mean feat, but a feat which, of course, was barely mentioned in WCW, and people wonder why they went out of business, brother. Norton returned to New Japan in 1999, capturing the IWGP title a second time in 2001. Now semi-retired, Flash still turns up from time to time to batter people on the independent scene. Number 6. JBL. Big, brassy, bullying bastard John Justin Hawk Bradshaw Layfield might not be everyone's cup of tea, but his HOSS credentials cannot be disputed. Big, girthy, with a clothesline literally from hell, Big Jibble is one of the most successful HOSSes of the last generation. A mainstay of the WWE since the New Generation era, Bradshaw toiled in the undercard before making his name as part of the Acolytes with Farouk, crushing jobbers and peers alike with his stiff clothesline. A lightning rod for controversy, his backstage antics and at times questionable behavior became as famous as his lariats, as he surprisingly bolted up the card on SmackDown, eventually holding the WWE Championship for over a year. Not bad for the former New Blackjack. He's also known for dishing out a beating, whether it be to the Public Enemy or to the Blue Meanie, although he was dropped a few places on this list after getting knocked on his arse by Joey Styles. Really? JBL retired from full-time competition in 2009 before turning his hand to commentary, always sounding like he was 10 seconds away from slugging Michael Cole upside the bonce. Number 5. Kenta Kobashi. Without a doubt one of the greatest wrestlers to ever come out of Japan, Kenta Kobashi was one of the almost mythical 4 pillars of All Japan Pro Wrestling in the 1990s, alongside Misawa, Kawada, and Taue. After starting his career with a losing streak that would make Kurt Hawkins turn away in embarrassment, Kobashi became mega over with the All Japan faithful and soon became a multi-time world champion, infamous for his flurry of stiff clotheslines and machine gun chops, never mind the gift-friendly burning hammer. Involved in 23, yes, 23 Meltzer-rated 5-star matches throughout his career, Kobashi also held a bevy of titles in All Japan and Noah before being diagnosed with cancer in 2006. Kobashi shrugged off his diagnosis and vowed to be back in a Noah ring within a year, a feat he accomplished before going on to wrestle a further 6 years before retiring in 2013. What a tough bastard. Number 4. Harley Race. A man so legitimately hard that it was claimed that Andre the Giant feared him, Harley Race is quite simply an icon. A product of a time where men were men and kayfabe was firmly in place. An 8-time NWA champion, Race is considered by many as the wrestler's wrestler, taking care of business in and out of the ring, managing to have grueling epics with luminaries such as Ric Flair and Terry Funk, whilst allegedly being absolutely leathered. During the height of Vince McMahon's expansion across the US in the early 1980s, handsome Harley allegedly turned up to a WWF show in his home territory of Missouri and made his way backstage to knock Hulk Hogan flat on his ass before pulling a gun on him. Didn't stop Race signing for McMahon a few years later, becoming the second king of the ring in the process. Number 3. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is the modern-day final boss of the WWE, a big hulking mass of red skin and hatred, suplexing all oncomers with ease and loving the opportunity to exchange stiff digs with whoever is tough enough to go toe-to-toe with him. Yes, we are talking about the time that Brock sent Braun Strowman's jaw into space. While his initial run in 2002 saw him at his physical peak, we prefer the big red HOSS Brock has become following his successful first run in the UFC and his return to WWE in 2012. I mean, just look at the size of his head. It's like someone glued a gammon joint to a boulder and gave it life in an illicit voodoo ceremony. If you need more evidence of Brock's HOSS credentials, then ask Roman Reigns, who Brock socked about the mush in the main event of WrestleMania 31, or Randall Keith Orton, who Brock turned into a puddle of blood and tears at SummerSlam 2016. No thank you. Number 2. Vader. One of the most feared competitors of the 1990s, Big Van Vader is an icon of WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, a 6'5", 450-pound mass of fury and meat. Now, I can already hear you in the comments crying, "Hark, Vader be not a HOSS, Vader be a monster," but we say he toes the line. Just watch the way he pummeled his opponents throughout his career, a volley of legit concussion blows and power bombs from here to Japan and back again. Plus, it's our list. So there. The Mastodon is easily one of the most intimidating wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots, turning stiffness into an art form. His reputation as a legit badass saw him have storied runs in All Japan, New Japan, WCW, and WWF, holding the top title in all but the WWF. You can thank Shawn Michaels for that one. Vader returned to WWE screens to beat the piss out of Heath Slater in 2012 and still wrestled on the independent scene into 2017. Vader unfortunately passed away in June 2018, aged 63. Number 1. Stan Hansen. Ask most wrestling purists to name their favorite HOSS, 99% will probably say Stan Hansen. Looking like your dad in a cowboy hat after winning a tenner on the Grand National, Hansen first gained notoriety by breaking the neck of the legendary Bruno Sammartino in the mid-1970s, claiming in kayfabe that he did it by lariating the living legend. It wasn't until the early 1980s that the lariat confirmed his legend, destroying everything on 2 feet in Japan and sweeping as many titles as he could, becoming the only man to score championship victories over the legendary heads of All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling, Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki respectively. A second spell in Japan in the late 1980s and into the 90s furthered his reputation, swapping the Triple Crown Championship back and forth with Misawa across a series of excellent matches, while also having a 5-star classic against Kobashi in 1993. He also managed to knock Vader's goddamn eye out of its goddamn socket, so there's that too. Hansen retired in 2001 and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2016. Reports of him lariating geeks in catering are sadly untrue.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.